What a day up here. It wasn't doing anything earlier, and now all of a sudden, looks like we got a snow squall coming in, or at least some decent snow showers coming in. So, I'm going to be going over a couple of key influences that can sometimes make us feel like we're a failure. So this is what's going to be the topic of this video, is what makes us encounter those times when we feel like a failure. And there are two influences. The first one being your family, how you grew up, who your parents were, immediate family members, maybe even some uncles, aunts, cousins, so forth. And the second influence can be people you grew up with as friends, people you went to school with, people you hung out with earlier in your life. So I'm going to first start off by kind of going over how your parents and immediate family can kind of influence what kind of expectations you set for yourself. And especially like if you grew up in a really affluent environment. So like for instance, I don't know what it's like to really be poor because I didn't grow up poor. I actually grew up, a lot of my classmates growing up in grade school thought we were like super rich. It would be interesting because my mom would drive her Mercedes. My stepdad bought a back then it was a Lincoln Continental Mark 6, back when the 8-track cassette players were in style, or just kind of coming out of style. I believe 8-track cassette players were like at their peak in the late 70s. So when they would drop me out to school in the Lincoln, kids would be like, "Do your parents drive a limousine?" And the house we lived at pretty much had a view almost like this. It overlooked Lake Washington, overlooking Bellevue, Seattle. It was basically like, imagine having a house up here. We had no neighbors to our left, and we had a neighbor to our right. There was houses above us, but they weren't really visible. There was a nun house across the street from us, a very big house, but it was kind of hidden a little bit by some trees, but we could still see it from the street. So basically, not much in the way of neighbors. Big house, over 4,000 square feet. I had my own bedroom. I guess I pretty much had my own bathroom too, because right next to my room was a guest bedroom. So super big house. We even hosted dance parties, disco dance parties, upwards of over 100 people. Yeah, that's I guess, with status, sometimes you're able to, like, I don't know, just sometimes with status, you're just able to draw those people in. But yeah, I remember my parents having big parties, average get-together size of between 30 and 40 people, but there were a few instances where over 100 people, and a handful of them would stay overnight because they've had a little bit too much to drink. So yes, I grew up in a very affluent environment. My stepdad worked for the Boeing company, sales engineering. He might have been a sales engineer. I don't exactly recall what his position was. And my biological dad, which I really didn't know really much about back in the time, but he worked for the government, really high up there in pay. I think he was like capped out as far as like how far up you can go as far as working for the government. He was really up there. I mean, he was in a managerial position. He oversaw like an entire team of people. So he was like big time. So growing up, I kind of looked up to them, and I'm like thinking, okay, that's what I saw success as. I saw success as someone that's really high up in a position, making a lot of money, high up in their company. So that's kind of the environment I grew up in. And other members of my family, like I have a cousin in Colombia. He would be considered upper class in Colombia. He actually makes more money than a lot of people in the United States do. So I mean, that's like, at least he makes a lot more than most, if not all, people that make minimum wage in the U.S. He makes more money. I don't know exactly how much he makes, but he's doing pretty well. So my immediate family member influenced what I thought about success, and it made me set expectations of what I feel like I need to succeed, or what I need to do to succeed. Okay, so that's the first influence, family. Now the second influence is who you grew up with, who your friends were. And this is why I'm glad I've been off of Facebook for almost 2 years, because a lot of like the so-called cool kids, the people that were like popular, people that were like had a lot of friends that were like dating all the time. Well, I remember when I was on Facebook, I was just like, I wonder what so-and-so is up to. And yeah, you'd be able to see their profile, be like, oh, it looks like they got a nice family. And someone kind of helped shed some light on this, that even though people look happy on Facebook, happiness could be, what we're seeing as far as people looking happy could be an illusion. And I'm going to make a separate video on that, how happiness to the outside observer could be an illusion, meaning like when we go out places and we see people happy with their friends or happy eating out, are they really happy? Or are they like in an abusive relationship? Are they just going out there just because their spouse or their friends are making them go out there? So that's something to consider as well. So for instance, like let's say I saw a bunch of people coming up the trail and they're hooting and hollering, hugging, kissing. To the outside observer like me, I'm like thinking, oh, how nice, they look all happy. But who knows, maybe when they're off the trail, when they're back at their homes or doing whatever, they could be arguing, they could be yelling at one another. So it's hard to say. So back to the topic of who we grew up with can influence what we expect of ourselves. So yeah, a lot of the people I went to school with, especially not just the cool kids, but a lot of people in general, yeah, I would look on Facebook and be like, wow, sales engineer, principal manager, principal accountant, even a few data analysts. Actually, one of the people I skied with quite often during my 20s, he's into IT. I want to say I recall he does something with SQL, so I don't know if he's an analyst, I think a quality assurance analyst, but he's way up there. Another friend of mine started a really impressive business, I would say, cutting trees, a tree cutting service. And that takes a lot of, that's something I would not want to do, climbing up 100-foot trees, carrying a 60-pound chainsaw on trees in the wind, cutting limbs way up in the ground. Yeah, that takes some nerve, but yeah, but a lot of people I grew up with working at Microsoft, Boeing, big companies. So that's kind of that's actually one of the big reasons why I don't like to ski at resorts, is not so much because it's crowded, it's because it just kind of triggers those feelings of like, where have I gone in life? Because skiing's an expensive sport, especially if you're doing it in resorts. I mean, it's like some places charge upwards of like $250 for a day ticket. Who can afford that unless you're bringing in the big bucks? And especially if you got a family, that's what I really didn't like about working at the ski area, especially like direct customer service, because you're seeing a lot of these families, driving up in like, I couldn't see what they were driving up in, but to be able to spend the day on the mountain, say with a family of 4, you could easily be spending $1,000 a day, easily. And I'm like, okay, what do these guys do for a living? What kind of jobs do they have that they're able to come up, or especially like the ones that come up on weekdays? I'm just like, okay. And so it like makes me think, oh, I spent too much time in my 20s goofing around, not really getting anywhere. And that's why I'm where I'm at now, because I still look at my 20s as kind of like the baseline of why I'm at to why it is where I'm at right now, is because I goofed around in my 20s. So actually, I really despise my 20s. So I'm not going to go over that because I've done that in a previous video. So yes, who we grow up with can make us set expectations for ourselves that oftentimes can be exceedingly difficult. Now, it doesn't mean to give up, because really the goal is to at least be in a position to where you can pay the bills, have some money for savings, and what I've really considered really important is being able to eat right. And eating good, unfortunately, costs a lot of money. So that's the big thing, being able to just have some, and being able to just kind of enjoy things, being able to travel. I don't need to have like the most expensive bicycle out there, like the most expensive skis. But I have to admit, it would be nice to get some new ski boots. I mean, come on now. I mean, I've been skiing in the same boots for almost 11 years now, and they're all getting hard, and they're loosey-goosey, and I can't really ski in those things. And the boot is actually more important than what you're skiing on. You could be skiing on the worst pair of skis, but if you've got bad boots, it doesn't matter what you're skiing on. Or like my bike. My bike is like, they say it's the rider, not the bike, but I'm going to have to be honest with you. I'm probably losing at least 1 to 2 miles an hour easily on the flats at say 200 watts. If I'm putting out 200 watts on the flat, I can almost be certain I'm losing 1 to 2 miles an hour. On a downhill, let's not go there. Let's not go even there. I'm probably losing at least 4 to 5 miles an hour on the downhill. And with an aerodynamic bike, yeah, I could be. And so what I'm getting at is, it'd just be nice to have that little bit of extra cash to just be able to, finally get myself a bike, maybe some boots, and just like in my free time, kind of just let loose, get wild. And talking about that, yes, I was finally able to afford some new shoes with my current job. Yeah, can you believe that? I was on shoes that I had probably gotten over 800 miles. They were probably only good for 300 miles, and they were just like no traction. I would be slipping around on this snow that you see me back here, slipping and sliding, not having a good time. So finally, I was able to afford some new shoes. And that's how big of a difference an extra $7 an hour makes. It's insane. It doesn't seem like much, but when you've got bills to pay, when you've got debt to pay off, and you don't make enough to really cover excess amounts of your debt and bills, and you're barely afford to eat well, yes, it's hard to kind of afford to get some much needed shoes. So I'm really thankful for that. Let's see what else. But yeah, that's kind of what I wanted to say in this video, is that oftentimes we experience these feelings of failure because of the environment that we grew up in, who our parents were, who our friends growing up were, and so forth. So that's why we can oftentimes feel like that we compare ourselves to them, because we were close to them. People that we're close with, the more close we are to people growing up, as we were growing up, even though I may not be close to them now, they do leave a lasting impression. Versus like, say, if I just met someone a couple years ago, that's a lot different. I'm not going to be like, oh, well, I've got to see where I got to measure up to what this person is, because I don't know them that well. But people that I grew up with and that I really hung out with a lot, they leave that kind of deep imprint on my life. And so that is why I kind of had these high expectations. But really, it's like, I may have mentioned this in some comments, but even if I could just get a job as like a part-time bookkeeper, I would be content. Just something, because, someone else mentioned like, bookkeeping for a library, just like anything that's like, because even a part-time bookkeeper can make $20 to $25 an hour, or like what I'm doing now. If I can there are other positions of what I'm doing now that's much less customer facing and make like $10, $15 more an hour. So yeah, there are people who are like on the same team as I'm on, but they're doing much less customer facing positions, but they're making like some people are almost making double of what I'm making. So they're coming away with like, whew, big paycheck. And it's not a bad way to go. So that's kind of why I'm figuring the best thing to do, although people are going to be like, well, it's going to take you 4 years to get an accounting degree. I figure because I've already got credits I could probably carry over, I'm not going to be wasting my time with these like general required university credits. I could probably push through it in 2 years, because I would probably get my degree through Western Governors University, and their method is you pretty much can, once you know the material, you can test out of it, which I like. You don't have to sit through a bunch of needless lectures, take a bunch of like needless notes. It's a matter of studying. Do you know the material? And it's like pass or fail. So I could probably bust through it. I would say like definitely 2 years, maybe even sooner, because there are people that have gotten like an analytics degree through WGU, and they're able to push through it in under a year. So it's better. And so what that does is it opens up doors, because I have seen several jobs that I more than likely could have at least gotten an interview for, especially working at the ski area, staff accountant, payroll clerk, bookkeeper, and they always listen to requirements or preferred skills, degree in financing, accounting, economics, or related field. So that's kind of why I'm pushing to really think that I need to get a degree to kind of just help me even if it's only a seasonal job, it's going to be a lot better than what I was doing last year. Because I know a lot of you think, oh, that was like a chill job, washing dishes, but it was soul crushing. And to finish off this video, I will say that during my last couple of weeks, there was this instance where a couple of customers came in, and I was doing something, and I didn't realize they were right there waiting for service. But they were understanding, and I could hear one of the customers whispering to her friend, "This has got to be a demoralizing job. It's got to be demoralizing work in there. I can understand why he doesn't look." I could definitely hear the demoralizing part, and it's got to be a demoralizing part. And they're like, really, that's how understanding. They knew what's up. They knew what was up. So yeah, from the videos I made, the live streams I looked, yeah, it looked chill. But remember, most of those people that were working there are probably not going to be there in like 6 months, a year, because they're students. They're going on to their careers and so forth. So yeah, I don't want to be taking steps backwards. That's not what I want to be doing. I want to be moving forwards, just getting to a spot in life where I can just be content. That's the key word, content. So, and if I get something that's way out of this world, and I'm happy with it, then all the better. But really, right now, it's just a matter of just getting something to where I'm doing something to where I'm not struggling to make ends meet, but also just kind of doing something where I can have the ability to kind of like grow, learn new things, and maybe even face a little bit of challenges as far as like advancing technology or different processes. So with that being said, I'm going to end the video with that. Hope you guys enjoyed the backdrop. But that's kind of my spiel on how people can perceive themselves to be failures. A lot of it is environmentally influenced. So for any of you out there, and I know I got to work on this myself, because I've been having some really difficult times, just trying to really do the best I can at my current job, so I can at least have something good to walk forward from. Keep making those steps forward. So if you guys are encountering any difficult situations, just remember that sometimes the expectations you set for yourselves could be highly influenced by who your family was, the environment you grew up in, who your friends were. And the more close you were to your friends growing up, and the more you hung out with them, it's going to leave a more deep, lasting imprint, and hence influence what you expect out of yourself. So with that being said, it's challenging out there, but we got to make it through. So with that, Godspeed.